well, racing is one of the country's largest employers, and what we see on our race day coverage are female jockeys, trainers, owners, strappers. But what we don't see are all the women that are working tirelessly behind the scenes to keep this sport as great as what it is. Well, on today's show, we've got 5 females that work across different parts of the industry. We'll chat to them about how they got there, what their role entails, and what they love about the racing industry. So let's introduce our 5 guests. We'll start with Alice Gibson, who's the General Manager of Equine Welfare, Carly Garling, who's the Official Veterinarian and Welfare Officer, Heidi Cathal's Property and Projects Manager, Jackie Johnson, General Manager of Investigations and Surveillance, and Leonie Mendonca, who's the General Manager of Marketing. Well, thanks so much, ladies, for joining us. It's such an exciting time with so many females across the racing industry. And Alice, I'm going to start with you, and just how important do you think it is to have women on the track, but also behind the scenes like what all you ladies are?
Well, I think, as you said, Jamie, it's incredibly important. You see the women on race days excelling and doing wonderful things, but there's just as many of us behind the scenes doing that as well. It's a huge industry with so many opportunities for a variety of skill sets.
Now, Jackie, you work in the investigations and surveillance team, which sounds incredibly interesting, but I want to start off by first of all finding out how you actually got into the racing industry.
Well, the position was advertised. Formerly, I was in the police force for 10 years as a detective, most recently with child abuse and sex crimes, so this is a little bit different. But my background with horses started from about age 3. My parents took an off-the-track thoroughbred and started with that, and we're now in a breeding program with quarter horses, and so that's really a big passion of mine. And my first paid job was actually at an equine veterinary centre, so this position, when it was advertised, seemed like a merge of my skills and experience, so I've been really fortunate to have landed this position.
Now, you're in the investigations and surveillance department, and on race days we tend to see a steward's inquiry, and they're quite front and centre really. So yes. Tell us about how you work alongside with the stewards, but also what is involved in your role in a day-to-day life.
Yeah, sure. Well, my day-to-day varies depending on what information comes in. The easiest way is probably to separate it in race day and non-race day terms. So on a race day, it would be attending the stables, doing an inspection, a physical inspection of all the horses that are accepted to run on that particular day, and trying to identify any signs of race day treatment. Whilst that goes on in the background, we've also got surveillance conducted of either trainers or industry participants, horses that are engaged to race. So that's a covert aspect that we also employ daily at Racing New South Wales within the department. And if there is any signs of race day treatment, it's just conducting an investigation from there in the stable and notifying the stewards. And at that point in time, we might get in contact with the veterinary department, such as calling Carly or some of the other veterinarians on race day and asking the necessary questions, things that might be recorded in treatment records and so forth, and reporting it to the stewards. And at that point in time, they determine whether the horse is suitable to race. So that's race day. That's quite a big component. And also, I should say, on race day, it's a matter of being on course and approachable for the industry participants and continuing to establish that rapport, and so they recognise and put a name to a face, so they feel comfortable in approaching you and giving you the information or the intelligence that you need to kick off these jobs.
What about non-race days?
Yes, so non-race day, I work closely with General Manager of Integrity and Chairman of Stewards, Mark Van Gestel, and what we do there is receive information. So the Stewards Department's obviously a one-stop shop for all information incoming for Racing New South Wales in terms of industry participants. So at that point in time, there's a complaint or information that's received. We assess that information and decide how we're going to progress an investigation. And then at that point in time, we get either the surveillance operatives or the investigators to commence an investigation and conduct an interview, collate the evidence to provide a brief of evidence to the stewards. And then usually that matter will go to inquiry, and the stewards will consider whether there's any charges or issues under the rules of racing.
Well, tell us what some of the key priorities are of your department.
Yeah, so the key priorities, I think, front of mind is one, to continue establishing relationships and rapport with the industry participants. I can't stress this enough, how important it is to be approachable and to have the industry participants, whether it be owners, trainers, people in the stables, feel comfortable to make a phone call or to send an email and provide us with the information. They are essentially the eyes and ears of the industry, and without that information we're unable or restricted in our ability to be at the forefront, to have an equal playing field. So that, for one, is to make sure that we are approachable, and we try to do that by visiting as many stables as we can, both in the metropolitan and also in regional New South Wales. And we've seen that a lot in the last sort of 2 years, us visiting some of the regional tracks as well and stables, which I think the industry has really appreciated. And so that's the first. I think the second would be our memorandum of understanding with the New South Wales Police. That's really strengthened our investigation capabilities. So what it does is provide us with a myriad of resources, both in the police and also externally other government organisations. I know even for the sake of Alice's department, having, you know, some of the detectives in regional New South Wales accompany the welfare inspections that take place, providing the stewards just with that extra layer of security or comfort that they're not attending a property just as a steward's, steward on their own. So I think that what we do is we have that to give comfort to the stewards. And also, from an investigations point of view, there's a casino and racing unit which we employ the services leading up to race day, particularly for key events like the Everest. So we'll have detectives that are attending on the racetrack, in the stables in the lead up to big race days, just to deter any behaviour that's not warranted for race day.
Well, Alice, I could imagine that you being the General Manager of Equine Welfare, you would work quite closely with Jackie's team at times.
Yeah, we do. Quite often if we get any welfare concerns come through to us, members of the public have concerns for the welfare of the thoroughbred. Depending on where that thoroughbred is located, I will liaise with Jackie and her team and we'll work together to arrange inspections. We'll engage the welfare vets if we've got photos of the horse and there's concerns for the horse's welfare and we think a vet would be needed in the first instance as well. So we all work really closely together. Just ultimately the main goal is to make sure that the welfare of the horse is first and foremost.
Jackie, I understand you've got another four-legged addition to your team, so you've got 2 dogs working with you guys. Tell us about what their role is in the team.
Yeah, sure. So we started off with Bear, which I'm sure the industry is well aware of. We've had great success with Bear in attending stables and locating an electronic device, which is obviously contrary to the rules. But because it's been so successful and very well in demand, we've decided to create a succession plan and bring along Flo. So Flo, female, is the latest addition to the Investigations and Surveillance Department. And Jared Roger, who's an investigator on the team, is doing a fantastic job at what we call imprinting the dog in various scents. So at the moment, the dog is capable, both dogs are capable of detecting electronic devices, prohibited substances, and what that means is prohibited substances that might be performance enhancing, so products, veterinary products that might be used on race day or prior to race day to try and assist the horse. It could be prohibited drugs, so ensuring that the participants aren't using prohibited drugs or there's no prohibited drugs used in and around the stables. And also further to that, which has been the latest imprint, is also to detect mobile phones. So that's been a big thing for us to be able to introduce that odour, and how we intend to roll that out is by ensuring that there's no mobile phones used in the jockeys' rooms and making sure that everyone's adhering to the rules of racing.
I find it really interesting that a dog can sniff out a mobile phone.
It's amazing, yes, yeah. I think even for us, me personally, attending, for the particular job that we had Bear detect the electronic device, we had at least 4 to 6 people on the ground trying to locate a particular device, and we sent the dog through and the dog was able to locate it in a matter of seconds. So it really is amazing at what they're capable of doing.
Really great additions to your team, so you can send them in, they can find the the mobile phone.
It is, yeah, it's fantastic. Yeah, it really enhances our capabilities to be able to do a proper job, a thorough job, and less intensive.
And it's cool for us because we get to work with Jackie for Jared and the dogs will come out to Bart's farm, for example, and do some training exercises in the stables there and things like that. So that's always a good day for the guys on the farm to meet Bear and Flo, and another opportunity for us to collaborate, which is really cool.
Yeah, the industry have responded really well, particularly with Bear. Bear's quite a celebrity within Racing New South Wales, I know, among the staff, but also the industry. COVID's impacted it a little bit, but Flo, we intend to get out and introduce her into some of the stables operations more broadly now.
And do you want to just elaborate on how COVID has impacted your team and the investigations?
Sure, yeah. I mean, COVID has impacted us to a degree. We've been fortunate enough, the industry, to continue through the pandemic, but it has certainly made us stop and appreciate, refocus on how we conduct our operations, and actually allowed us to conduct offline operations. So our particular focus might have been proactivity, walking into stables. Now I've been able to look at other options such as licensing operations to ensure that the industry participants are complying with the rules of racing.
Well, it's definitely an interesting insight having a look into the investigations team. We're going to take a quick break here and we'll see you on the other side. Welcome back. We are here with 5 women within the racing industry that work in the back end. We're used to seeing all the females on track, but it's time to look at the back end of some of these other roles within the racing industry. And Alice, you're the General Manager of Equine Welfare, and before the break we spoke to your relationship with Jackie's team in surveillance. But for all of the racing fans at home that are watching today who aren't familiar with the work of Team Thoroughbred New South Wales, do you want to just give us an insight into what you and your team do?
Yeah, so Team Thoroughbred New South Wales is our equine welfare and rehoming division. So under the local rules of racing in New South Wales, all owners are obligated to find a suitable home for their horses when they retire from racing, and the vast majority of participants do that. But in the instance where they cannot find a home for that horse for whatever reason, they can come to us and they can apply to enter that horse into our program. We operate this program out of 7 properties across New South Wales. 4 of those are owned by Racing New South Wales. So horses are surrendered into our care, and then we've got really dedicated teams on the ground that work with those horses, assess them, retrain them and rehome them in a variety of new homes. As long as it's a happy and a safe home, we're happy about that.
And Carly, are you part of the education process on training a thoroughbred, but also their owners on how they can adapt into their next life? Because I'd imagine with some horses, they'd have to learn how to drink out of a dam, for example.
Yes, that's right. So a part of my role is the retired horse checks, and so I go out to properties, I meet the new owners, and we talk about how they're going with their horse. I conduct a welfare assessment and give them advice, nutrition, general husbandry, preventative care. A lot of the time they do have questions, and I think it's a really valuable resource that the vets are going out, myself and Rose, and chatting to people about how they can look after their horse. And
well, Bart's Farm is one of the properties that is under your care, and you've got a few famous residents there, which includes Jewel, Tab Everest winner in Redzel. How's he going?
He's great. He's enjoying life in the paddock, running around with his best mate, Happy Clapper. So they're getting very spoilt by the team out on the farm. We get lots of questions about them, so they are loving life. We'd love to get them back out to the races and out in public events once restrictions ease. So Redzel let out the field for the Everest last year, and Happy Clapper came out for the Doncaster this year, which was great and a great opportunity for people to engage with them, and also an opportunity for us to talk about what we're doing at Team Thoroughbred. So yeah, looking forward to getting back into that soon, hopefully.
Do you want to talk to us about some of the partnerships that the welfare team have with other companies?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're really passionate about spreading awareness of our program and providing an opportunity for different groups to be involved in the racing industry and with thoroughbreds particularly. So Probably our longest standing one is with New South Wales Corrective Services. So one of the 7 properties that we operate our welfare program out of is actually St Heliers Correctional Centre in Muswellbrook. So a number of horses are kept there. We've got a full-time retrainer and he works with the horses to retrain them and rehome them, but he also works with the inmates to teach them horse-related skills and give them more employment opportunities upon their release, which is a really fantastic joint partnership that we've got. In addition to that, we also this year did a program called the Wanyuwa program, and we did that with Kari. So that gave Indigenous youths an opportunity to come and learn about the racing industry, learn about the welfare program. They spent half a day at Hawkesbury Racecourse and they met jockeys, trainers, got to see the horses jump out at the barriers, and then they came back to Bart's Farm, got an opportunity to meet our horses there, Redzel and Happy Clapper, and for some of them it was the first opportunity to actually pat a horse or interact with a horse. So it's really cool, and we've had some really great engagement from them following that, indicating that they want some work experience opportunities in the industry. So it's really exciting.
Well, Leonie, as the General Manager of Marketing, what does your team do to help Alice's team to get that awareness out of exactly what they're all doing?
Yeah, so we support Alice's team with all their marketing initiatives, and that starts with maintaining their website, all their social media campaigns, supporting them with beautiful brochures and pretty much whatever they require. We've also done some signage for them, for the farms.
I think social media for us is a big driver of people being aware of our program. We've got a lot of young equestrians that love to post about what they're doing with their off-the-track thoroughbred, and we get a lot of engagement from our social media. So that's certainly a really important avenue for us to talk about what we're doing, talk about what horses are next available, and introduce our vets and talk about different initiatives that are available for people with off-the-track thoroughbreds.
And you work alongside the Race New South Wales Training Department.
Yes.
Do you want to tell us a little bit more about the pony clubs and other similar groups?
Yeah, so Team Thoroughbred has another arm, which is the Team Thoroughbred New South Wales Training Academy. So that is more focused on pathways into the industry, training opportunities and things like that. So obviously it's really important for us to engage with pony club kids. I was a pony club kid myself. Go and speak to them about, if you love horse riding, there's actually avenues that you can make this your career, and it can take you anywhere. So we go out to pony club camps, we talk about our welfare program, horses we've got available, but we also talk about the training program as well and pathways they can have into the industry.
Now, if you have just purchased one of these rehomed horses from Alice's team, no doubt you'll expect a knock on the door from Dr. Carly. Carly, do you want to just give us an insight into what your role is and what it entails? Because obviously you're at the track on race days, but then you're also working alongside Alice's team for the welfare purposes. Do you want to just talk to us about it?
Yes, so my role is quite varied and very interesting. No 2 days are the same, which I guess is its attractiveness as well. But the retired horse checks is a big part of it. So that's horses that have retired. We get the details of where they've gone with the name of the new owners. We contact the new owners, which can be scary for some people because it's a relatively new process and they think, why are you contacting me? It's not scary. So we go out and visit, conduct a welfare assessment, talk to their new owners. It's a potential as well, like we talked about, for educating the new owners. So that's a big part of what I do. But also the other parts would be going out to the Team Thoroughbred farms. As Alice said before, I go to the southern ones, so that's Bandanora, which is at Capetee, Glenferrie, which is at Roslyn, and I go to Bart's Farm at Castlereagh. So I oversee the veterinary care of the horses there. Obviously, horses are animals that do all kinds of things, as we know, so it keeps it interesting going out there and treating those horses, looking after them, talking to external vets that may have had to have come in. And then the other thing that I do is help Alice and Jackie with the welfare complaints that come in. So a vet will usually go out to these welfare complaints and just assess the horses and make sure they're okay. And if there's a way that we can lend a hand, then we do. And sometimes, everyone's circumstances are different. Sometimes things change for people and they can't look after their horse anymore. And in that instance, we can take the horse and rehabilitate them back to health, which is probably one of the more rewarding parts of my job. It's really lovely to bring a horse in and they just change. They completely change on one of our farms, and then we can rehome them down the line, which is great.
Yeah, it's lovely what you guys are doing in that welfare space. Well, tell us a bit about your background and what got you into the racing industry.
Yes, so I grew up riding retired racehorses. My first horse was a retired racehorse from Ballina. Common thread of my horses, they were very slow racehorses. Why I liked them so much. But I have entered through high school to 1-star and through university. So that was that was my extent with the racing industry to that point. And then through uni, the chief veterinary officer at the time, Dr. Suhan, came and gave us a lecture. And I thought, oh gee, I've never really thought about this before. And so went and became a SWAB official with Racing New South Wales. That's my first taste of the industry, and it was just so exciting, you know, watching the horses gallop past you, and you just couldn't believe that you were paid to be there, kind of thing. Then when I finished university, I went into private practice racetrack, and so you're part of the team preparing the horse and managing them coming up to their big race, and when they would run, you'd feel part of the team, which was really exciting. But with this opportunity with Racing New South Wales in welfare, it just felt like the marrying of my two passions. It was like the retired racehorses that I'd always loved, and then the ability to also be a vet in that space was really exciting.
And a question for, I guess, both Alice and Carly is there any tips that you often will give someone who's interested in rehoming a horse? Is there specific things that you say to them you need to have, obviously property and somewhere to home them, but is there any advice that you would give to someone that's looking into rehoming a racehorse?
Yeah, I think like in the first instance, where you're going to look after this horse and understanding what a commitment it is a rewarding commitment, but it is a big commitment. So understanding their circumstances. I think quite often one of the frequent questions we get is about the diet and the change of diet from when the horse has been racing to when it's retired. So Carly can really speak a lot more to that as well. I'd say that would be the most frequent thing that we get. But also just understanding that we're here to support as well. Whether they've got that horse from Team Thoroughbred or whether they've just got an off-the-track Thoroughbred, give us a call if you've got any questions. Like, we're here to support. We're all one big community, and I think that's the biggest message that we want to get across.
That's right. So as Alice spoke about the feeding, there's this letdown. Everyone calls it the letdown. They come off the track and they transition into their new life. And that's where I would notice when I go out that potentially some issues arise because people don't understand the way, and I think with horse people what's difficult is that everybody has an opinion and it's not necessarily the correct one. So having a good support network around you, so say having a vet you can talk to, having a great coach, I think are really important, because people will get the horse and they'll think, oh great, you know, I got this horse, but then they don't understand the feeding that is required, how it's different to maybe another breed of horse, but also and when you have any horse, you should have a good support network in terms of a coach so that you can both progress together.
Well, there's still plenty more to come. We'll take a quick break here, and on the other side, we'll speak to Heidi and Leonie. Welcome back, and Heidi, you're the Projects and Property Manager at Racing New South Wales. First of all, I'm just really interested in what your role involves. So talk to us about that and how you got into the racing industry.
Yeah, so I guess a bit about my role is that it's, like Carly said, like every day is so different. You know, one day we're looking at ways to, I guess, invest in the future, investing now for the future of racing, which could be looking at, regional areas for, improving the tracks or facilities there, or, we just purchased this year the TAFE at Scone, so that's, helping the employment in the industry as well. So, it comes with market research, looking after our tenants at some of our properties, and I work really closely with Alice with the welfare properties as well. So, and that can just come with general maintenance that we need, and just one exciting part of my role is working under Peter V'landys with negotiating as well. So I've learned a lot underneath him, and I'm hoping that I'll get there one day. But yeah, no, I fell into this role my background is real estate. Just had a passion. I love real estate and met Peter V'landys through that, and he just said that there was an opening at Racing New South Wales, and I grew up on a farm in Ballo, on an apple farm, so yeah, which I loved, but I've always, just like all of us, we've all had a passion and all love horses as well. So when he said that, I was like, oh, you know, career change would be really nice. And then, yeah, I fell into the marketing team, and that kind of fell, I guess my real estate background just helped with helping out with the Racing New South Wales property portfolio, and hopefully over time we'll just continue to expand that.
So Alice, do you help in the property team in when they're identifying a property? Do you go out and just make sure it ticks all the boxes in terms of a welfare perspective, or you just rely solely on their opinion on what they purchase?
Look, I'm guided a lot by Heidi and the team in the first instance. Obviously, the most recent property we've acquired for equine welfare is Glenferrie Farm. So that's down in Roslyn near Crookwell and Goulburn, and importantly, that services the southern area of New South Wales for us. So before that, Bart's Farm was our southernmost property. So, you know, I can say to them, look, I'm looking for a property that might open up that opportunity for that southern part of New South Wales, but they're really the experts in the first instance. So, yeah, they would source it first.
And like one thing that we did was, you know, one of our biggest expense right now is probably, you know, feeding. And so we did purchase a hay farm recently to be able to, you know, balance those costings out as well. So they're just little, I guess, opportunities that we just take and, you know, feel that that's needed right now. And that's what we did, especially, you know, after the last 3 years. I think any farmer can say, like, the drought was a huge impact, and that was probably a huge expense for Racing New South Wales as well, and the welfare team. So, you know, we had to look at that and see what we could do, and Alice and her team and our team as well just worked together to get that done.
Yeah.
And tell us what a day in the life would be like for you. Are you out at these properties, obviously pre-lockdown restrictions, but are you tend to go out to these properties, or it's more online? Tell us just about what involves.
Actually, majority of it is online, and our team is so, like, we have team members everywhere. You know, if we need to do a property inspection, you know, Alice, your team's like everywhere. So we do have quite a few people who can do those property inspections for us, or we might outsource, you know, to get some, you know, some advice, you know, testing soil, testing, you know, I guess that land, is it, you know, would it be good for us? So we do, but we also do our own market research and analysis as well. And I guess, you know, Peter V'landys does have a very good idea of, you know, what's a good investment. So we definitely take on his advice.
Do you have any exciting projects that we can all look forward to?
Yes, we do. In the near future, we do have, you know, the Scone precinct there. This year we purchased the TAFE, which is really exciting. And then we also, you know, from the state budget for this year, there was an announcement for funding to go towards our stable facilities that, you know, I'm really excited to be a part of. Just seeing something being built from the ground up, I think is really cool. And then we've also this year purchased Waratah Stud in Mossvale. I can say that I would happily live in the stables there. It's a gorgeous property. You know, the plans are in the making at the moment, and I think it's a very, very exciting investment that has been made for the industry as well, and also at Scone. I think in the near future, I think, you know, all trainers are going to be very excited to see what happens there as well, and hopefully just it grows the industry. We have more people with employment as well.
Now, you're also involved in the Golden Eagle charity promotion. Do you want to just talk to us about how that works?
Yeah, no, honestly, this is my favourite race, only because, you know, I guess the background is that each runner is matched with a charity. And last year was my first time doing this, and you know, there's 12 charities, and, you know, I got to know each one, and I didn't even know these charities existed. And I got quite attached to everyone, that on race day, when I was surrounded by all the charities, I was like, I don't care who wins. Like, this is just awesome, because every charity walks away with something. And then once you see that, like last year, you know, Team Ty, the foundation that they have, we're now able to see what that money has done to so many people as well. You know, the year before or even this year, if it's like the Kids with Cancer Foundation, you know, we're able to see where that money goes, whether it's equipment, saving lives. You know, that's something that I think we all as a team are really proud of, you know, and it's just so exciting, the faces and the reaction, even if it's just a small amount, they're just so stoked. So yeah, it's a great initiative, I think.
And how do the charities get involved?
So they can contact us. I think at the beginning stages we just did our own research and we just I guess put it out there and see who was interested. But I can tell you now that every day we're getting a call to see, especially throughout COVID, I think everyone's really challenged. So I think a lot more people are wanting to be involved this year because, you know, I guess the prize money for first is huge and can make a huge difference to a lot of charities.
Yeah. Leonie, Spring Carnival is no doubt a really busy time for your team. You're the General Manager of Marketing. Just tell us what you guys are up to during this period.
Well, in my position as General Manager Marketing, I oversee a variety of projects, including the Autumn and Spring Carnival, the Autumn being the championships and the Spring Carnival is the Everest Carnival. And as you know, we are in the middle of the Everest Carnival. The Everest Carnival has a lineup of prestigious Group 1 races. We started on the 18th of September with the George Main Stakes. Last weekend we had the famous Tab Epsom. On the 16th of October we have Australia's richest race, the Tab Everest, followed by the launch of the Invitation, the Golden Eagle, Four Pillars and the Golden Gift. In 2019, Racing New South Wales added 2 more feature races in regional Australia. So we've got the $1 Million Hunter in Newcastle and the Gong in Kemmler Grange. So what does this mean for the marketing department? Well, it is the busiest season for us and we start off with creatives early in July. This year we started working on the Kosciuszko promotion to sell tickets. And the Kosciuszko is a unique race. It's a race for country horses, country trained horses. Anyone can participate. A $5 ticket gives a person a chance to be in the draw to win a share in the $1.3 million Kosciuszko prize money. We were challenged this year because of COVID and all the TABs around, the tabs around New South Wales were closed. Racing fans could not attend race meetings. So we came up with a social media strategy and we had the participation of all the country clubs around New South Wales support that strategy. We produced a lot of content, social media content, and every week for 10 weeks, we sent that content to the different country clubs and requested them to post that on their platforms. And we received tremendous support from them, which enabled us to meet our target goals as far as ticket sales are concerned. And at the back of that, the Four Pillars is born. So while a lot of our work, JAIMEE, there's a lot of multitasking, there's a lot of overlap. So while we're working on the Kosciuszko, we're also working on contender announcements for the Everest. So our team is constantly working on concepts for the Everest, the Golden Eagle. We have the new Invitation coming up, so there's a lot of branding and brand awareness that we are working on at the moment. In-house, we focus on all the business to consumer below the line advertising, so that's your print, digital and social media. We also produce all the concepts for above the line advertising in-house. So that is storyboards for TVCs, live reads for the radio. We do all the graphics for outdoor signage. So that would be the digital billboards, transit signage for trains and bus wraps. So while we are working on the carnival, the Everest Carnival, we also have our mundane task that we need to attend to. So we support Alice's team with all the marketing initiatives for the Equine Welfare Department, Team Thoroughbred. We produce training modules for Team Thoroughbred Training Academy and course brochures. Throughout the year, we also produce a lot of publication material. So the team's working on like Racing New South Wales Monthly Magazine.
On the table here.
Front Runner, Bob Sire Guide, annual reports. We also do events, and at the moment we are working on the Australian Racehorse of the Year Awards and the Racing New South Wales Awards of Excellence. So the team is working tirelessly at the moment, and I am very proud of each and every one of them, and I have to say I feel privileged to lead the marketing team.
You guys are certainly very busy, and one thing I love about marketing is things like a disruptive campaign or making customers want something that they didn't know that it even existed. And something that I loved that you guys did was when you put the saddlecloths on the Opera House, and it caused an absolute uproar. And I loved every minute of it, and it was on the front page of the paper, the back page of the paper, it was being spoken about everywhere. And I just thought that really summed up just a really successful initiative by you guys. Is it important to try and do things like that as just to get your average, your once a year race goer to see initiatives like that? Or
look, initially that wasn't the intention. However, Racing New South Wales launched the Everest to shake up the racing industry and to draw attention on Sydney and New South Wales. Everest is also targeted at a younger audience, the 18 to 35-year-olds. So we had to do things differently to engage that audience. And yes, it turned into a disruptive kind of a campaign, but what it did was it brought attention to Sydney, even internationally. So it kind of benefited us.
Yeah, it was absolutely fantastic. And then you also got to put them on the Sydney Harbour Bridge,
Sydney Harbour Bridge on the pylons.
Well. Now tell us about the trophies, because one thing that everyone always talks about is that Tab Everest trophy. It is absolutely beautiful. You no doubt have had to take it to some pretty interesting places, because that trophy has got a very full schedule.
Yeah, it's a very funky and spectacular trophy. So with that trophy, the initial brief was to Peter V'landys, our CEO, wanted something more than just a trophy. He wanted an exquisite piece of jewelry. So there are 8,000 round white and black diamonds on that trophy. It's worth about $625,000. And I think Chironi Jewellers have done an excellent job. It's a masterpiece. Now, the trophy gathers a lot of attention wherever she goes. When she's on display at Royal Randwick or Rosehill Gardens, there are people queuing to get pictures. So she has also made appearances on television, in the newspaper, at photo shoots, at VIP events. She's also traveled to the US, first class with Graham Hinton, to the Good Day USA Gala. She has, I should say the trophy has also climbed the Harbour Bridge with Kiran McAvoy, 3 times Everest winner. And on the 16th of October, one lucky winner will be taking her home.
Now, someone who knows very well the schedule of this trophy is Alice. Do you want to just elaborate a little bit more?
Yeah, it was one of my first jobs at Racing New South Wales. I was the trophy's diary manager, and I set the trophy schedule, had to make sure that everyone knew where the trophy was going to be, on what day, at what time, who with. It was a full-time gig. Yeah, it was full on.
Well, especially if she's going off to LA.
Yeah.
That's part of it.
Yeah, exactly.
You didn't get to go to LA?
I didn't get to go to LA. I think that was a bit of a stitch.
Yeah.
No, it was interesting. Yeah, everything just down to every last detail had to be perfect. She's in high demand, so whether it's at the studios, at photo shoots, as Leonie said, so she really did need someone.
She's a good ambassador for Racing New South Wales.
Yeah.
Because everyone wants to have a photo with her, and I guess that then goes out on social media, and
Absolutely.
it's very important these days. And Leonie, just tell us a little bit about your background and how you ended up in the racing industry.
Well, I started my career in Dubai as a graphic designer. I worked for one of the largest publishing houses, Race Week was one of the titles I worked on for Nadal Sheba Racecourse, and we used to do a lot of colourful, glossy brochures for the Dubai World Cup. So that gave me exposure at race meetings, and I was able to attend the Dubai World Cup, and it's high-class racing in Dubai. I love dressing up and going and having a good time, and for me, it was a different world. It was exposure to a whole new world, and I loved all the glitz and glamour, and I think that's what attracted me to racing. In 2001, when I migrated to Sydney, I was looking for work, and my first job was at Harness Racing New South Wales, and it was that Race Week magazine that helped me secure that job. Later in 2004, I took a break from the corporate world to look after my children, and I set up a business, and Racing New South Wales was my first client. I have been working as a contractor for them for over 14 years now. I used to do all their, design all their magazines, annual reports, and whatever marketing and advertising material they required. In 2018, I decided to re-enter the corporate world since my kids have grown up now. And I thought I should put an application in to Racing New South Wales and see if there was an opportunity. And I got a call straight away to come and see Graham and Peter. At that point of time, one of their marketing executives was moving overseas, and there was a marketing position available. And because I had that business background and the marketing background, they offered me a role in the marketing department. So I joined as marketing and communications coordinator. And this year I was promoted to general manager marketing, which is the highlight of my career.
You five are all so successful and so amazing at what you do in this racing industry. And I think we're so lucky because this is one of the only sports in the world where men and women are on an equal playing field. And to speak to you five, is there any advice that you ladies would have for not just women entering into the industry, but anyone who's interested in coming into the racing industry? And any tips or advice that you would like to give them? Jackie, I'll start with you if you've got any, especially in your field. I mean, how does anyone get into what you do?
Yeah, sure. I guess for me, it's probably getting an appreciation of what actually exists out there in terms of roles that are available. I know even from an investigations background, I wasn't privy to the fact that Racing New South Wales had such a department. So first and foremost, just reach out and get in touch. I know I'm more than happy to take a call, and I can safely say that any of these ladies would as well. So there is always somebody to contact. The staff at Racing New South Wales are really approachable. If you have career aspirations, regardless of what that role might be, on or off the track, please get in touch and we can help you navigate your way through whatever your desired career is.
Carly, what about you for any up-and-coming vets that want to come into the racing industry?
I think the most important thing is to follow your passion. Because if you follow your passion, it feels like you're not working, which is a bonus.
Or Heidi, what about someone like you that was in a different industry like real estate and wants to make the transition across into racing?
Yeah, I just say don't be afraid, you know, and also that, like, hopefully today has shown and can help educate, you know, someone that's, you know, just leaving school that just probably didn't know. A lot of people do think that it is just, you know, jockeys and trainers and owners, and you don't have to own a horse to be in this industry at all. You know, if you've got a passion and you love it, or even if you don't, but you've got, you know, you want to just take that path and different career, I just, you know, email, call us. I think as hopefully we've shown that there are, you know, 5 different departments just here that hopefully, you know, we will be able to help and maybe encourage someone else, a younger version of us, I guess.
I know, 5 such interesting departments of racing. Alice, any tips for anyone coming to follow in your footsteps?
I just say, yeah, this industry is always growing and evolving. There are so many new opportunities. I had no idea of the breadth of opportunities in this industry when I first started, and when I got my first role at Racing New South Wales. So as the other ladies have said, just reach out, talk to us, send us in your resume. We're always happy to help, and I think there's really something for everyone here.
Yeah.
And Leonie, any final words from you on someone that wants to come into the industry?
Yeah, sure. Look, I think the racing industry has been male dominated for decades, but the landscape is changing. And there are a lot more women trainers, women jockeys in the past couple of years, a lot more women who are media reporters as well. And I mean, look at all of us, 5 women in management, in racing. And even at head office, we have a lot more women. We also, I think one thing that I value about Racing New South Wales is I feel there's a sense of support and inclusion. For me in particular, I have found in my career that being a woman, especially with a diverse background, can pose barriers to achieving career goals. But there is a sense of inclusion at Racing New South Wales, and I'm very grateful to our C-suite level executives at Racing New South Wales because they reward hard work and effort. Yeah. They encourage the younger generation to step up, and they look beyond cultural barriers.
It's so important. I mean, look, you 5 are all, as you said, in management position. You've got Saran Cook, who's on the board. Yeah. Ladies, thank you so much for your time today. You've all so interesting and just absolutely killing it in the racing industry. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching. I hope you got a great insight into some of these roles behind the scenes of this amazing industry in racing.